So another movie year has come to a close. 2025 is almost in the books. And in that, it's always a good opportunity to talk about the great movies and the movies we enjoyed most at the end of the year and the conclusion to the year. This is not that whatsoever. These are the movies I hated the most in 2025. These are the movies that were the real stinkers and the movies that I don't even want to think about again now that we approach into 2026. And as always the case with these videos each year, we have this video, which is a kind of an introduction, plus the dishonourable mentions, and the ones that were closest to making it into that bottom 5 of the year. And then there'll be the 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and of course the worst of the year. And what a sorry bunch it is this year, because there's been, as I say, 2025 has been a high for movies, but there's been a hell of a lot of stinkers this year. And these are the ones that really were the worst. So let's get started talking about the worst and the dishonourable mentions for the year of 2025. And the first dishonourable mention of 2025 is Alto Knights. Robert De Niro in a dual cast role, set in a kind of mafia gangster. This had all the recipe for something great, but may just have been the most boring movie of 2025. No substance, no excitement, nothing to latch on to here. Robert De Niro really just not caring, and it's very evident as an audience member watching it. Alto Knights is probably one of the biggest misfires of Robert De Niro's career in this latter stage, and is ultimately one of the more forgettable movies of not only this year, but certainly the past few years. Not long after that, and earlier in the year, we had Novocaine. And not long before this, we had Jack Quaid in Companion, a movie I quite enjoyed. But about 2 or 3 weeks later, we had Novocaine, a guy who can't feel pain. A silly premise, but didn't in any way play into the silliness as much as it should have. It took itself way too seriously, and ultimately had so little story other than the premise to actually sustain itself. Novocaine is such a swing and a miss for Jack Quaid, who's been on such a high for so many things. This was a real bad one, and hopefully isn't an indictment of what's coming for his career in the future, and he can get back on track. And the last dishonourable mention of this video and of this year, The Thursday Murder Club. What a cast here. Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, Ben Kingsley, Celia Imrie, Jonathan Pryce, Tom Ellis, David Tennant, Richard E. Grant, and all combines to make one of the most stinky, boring, predictable, nothing murder mysteries I've seen in a lot of years, never mind this year. An absolute waste of potential, and a movie that I wish I hadn't watched in truth. But I can tell you this, these dishonourable mentions we've just talked about, they aren't half as stinky as the movies to come.